Oh, the Rockstar's back, and we're talking all things Australian MMA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event. Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion. Not even backstage, we're literally outside. Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good at the Aussie MMA Instagram page and give us a bit of glow up because...
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitchell Tinley, and joining me is essentially the sensei of MMA for me in this country. When I started doing this a good couple of years ago, Callan the Rockstar Potter, who has had multiple fights in the UFC and is an Australian MMA legend. He was a man that I brought on because I don't think my opinion carried any weight. I still don't. But it's put on a few kilos. And Callan Potter was a man that I thought, look, got to have him on the show because if I say something and he goes, yep, then you guys, unless you're better than Callan Potter, you can't say anything about it. So he was very gracious early on in my career to come on and be a part of the show. And hopefully we can continue to have him on. He's appeared many times before. If you don't know who Callan the Rockstar Potter is, you probably don't know who anyone in Australian MMA is. He is the most recent, the last ever man to hold both the Eternal MMA and the Hex Fight Series title at the exact same time without giving up any one of them. Look, he was an absolute stud in the Australian MMA scene, and he got his opportunity at a very late age to compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So he's kind of touched on a bit of everything in the world of mixed martial arts for this country. You know, he's been that sort of burst out fighter. He's been a veteran of the game. He's gotten his opportunity late. He's jumped into the UFC. He's won. He's lost. He's seen the highs and lows, and there is no one opinion in mixed martial arts that I almost respect more. Ladies and gentlemen, we hear from our friends at Vex, and on the other side, it's Callan the Rockstar Potter, and we're talking absolutely everything in Australian MMA. That's PFL, UFC, Jack Della, Volkanovski, Beatdown Promotions, their titles, Dimps versus Michael Barber. We've got Hex Fight Series. We've got Sib Murdoch. We've got Marwan Rahiki, George Mangos, Contender Series, Road to UFC, Seb Saleh, Don Marfan. We've got Wes Kappa, Brentin Mumford out of the Eternal MMA. There are so many fights that we're going to talk about, so many titles, and just where mixed martial arts is right now in this country and where it's going to be. But hey, I've talked for long enough, but you guys already know the drill. There's time codes below. Skip to where you need to go. Our friends at Vex, and on the other side, Callan the Rockstar Potter.
Vex MMA has officially teamed up with PRP Global, and their brand new website is now live. Head over to Vex MMA to check out their latest gear, perfect for fighters and fans alike. Whether you're stepping into the cage or just repping the lifestyle, Vex MMA has you covered.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. If we had a Hall of Fame, he'd be in the first ballot of it. Callan the Rockstar Potter, welcome.
Mate, thank you. That's a great introduction.
No, I used to use you when we very first started as like, if you agreed with me, I was like, see the UFC guy, he agrees with me. Where now I've obviously, my ego's gotten so big, I don't need you to get into the club anymore.
You've done well. That did you no favours, mate. I at some stage sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I'm a very dumb individual, as Dan Kelly will remind me on a daily basis. So I'm not sure you want to hitch your wagon to me, mate.
Oh, now, mate, I've got a lot of time has passed since we last spoke. I am going to run through a whole bunch of things. When I get to the end, you tell me which one you want to talk about. All right, you ready? All right, so we've got Volk winning back his UFC title, Jack Della fighting for the UFC title, Josh Culibao getting a cut, George Mangos Contender Series, Road to UFC guys. We've got Jack Becker, Don Marfan, Aaron Tao, Seb Saleh all in with Lawrence Liu, Kit Campbell rumoured to be in Road to UFC. We've got Joseph Luciano getting his PFL chance, Sarah Collins getting called out by the MMA legend Chris Cyborg. We've got Antonio Caruso in the PFL. We've got Beatdown on DAZN, Jack James becoming the Beatdown welterweight champion, Diego Pereira versus Gabriel Schlupp for the featherweight championship crown. We've got Michael Barber versus Dimps Gillies in Hex Fight Series. We've got Marwan Rahiki versus Kembo for the featherweight crown. Of course, after George Mangos, who will be in the Contender Series, has vacated that. We've got Nikos Trepka versus Kieran Joblin for the lightweight crown. We've got Kasib Murdoch versus Liam Gusty for the bantamweight crown. We've got Brody Maoki versus Artie Trepka. We got the first ever Winner's Circle event, which was great for Newcastle MMA. We've got Eternal MMA. We've got the interim bantamweight championship for Kia Uto will also be in the road to UFC along with Daichi Kamiya. We've got Conor Burke versus Matty Ian for the interim bantamweight title in Eternal MMA. We've got Taser Malone taking on Luke Jones. We've got John Fraser taking on Sebastian Temesi. We've got Nate Law taking on Sam Miles. Jackson Weir-White taking on Alfred Stoddart. Abdallah Biata taking on Raymount Quintana, Wes Kappa versus Brentin Mumford, D. Samasoni versus Khan Diata, and of course the father of modern day MMA, Renato Saboltic, playing basketball in federal prison. Where would you like to start?
Mate, there's not much going on. I'm not sure how you're going to keep yourself busy over the next couple of weeks. Jesus Christ.
I mean, what jumps out at you? It is, and that's all, honestly. But I'd say 90% of that is in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, you're right. I reckon you're probably about maybe 10 days ago, things just started to clap off, mate. They just started to clap off. It just went a little bit crazy, and I'm not upset. Not upset by any of it.
What's the one that made you go, out of all of that, or maybe I missed something, what's one where you went, wow?
Oh, there's a couple you mentioned there that I was going to bring up but didn't know the context of. The UFC stuff is great. I love it. Volk with the title back. If you didn't half shed a tear when that happened, you're going to be crazy. All that international stuff is great. The boys getting the road to Hex things, especially someone like Becker, great. Very happy with that. Sarah Collins, if Cyborg pulls her finger out and actually gets something done, very excited. Sarah Collins is chopping at the bit. I'm sick of hearing about it every second day, so I hope that gets done. Awesome stuff, but you know me, mate. I'm a nerd for the local scene. So there's a couple of things happening on the local scene that have just got me absolutely tickled pink.
And what is that?
So it's fun. You know what? I was going to save it to there because we'll go over what I would say the serious. And it's not that this isn't a serious stuff, but I just think how my mind works with the local fights. There's some great local stuff happening. Joblin going again for that title. I'm stoked about that. A couple of the interim titles that going on. Do you know what fight's got me the most excited?
What?
Kappa Mumford.
Oh.
That's my most exciting fight. Just because that's just how my crazy brain works.
See, it's funny because out of all of that, and I'm on the very similar thought train of that, except mine is the other fight of the night to watch, and I don't care about any other fight, any other title. There is something about me that just thinks Dimps Gillies versus Michael Barber for the Australian BMF. Yeah. It's just like
100%, absolutely.
It's gonna be that one fight alone. If you'd never fought, it's like the one fight that could give you CTE. Just in that one moment, that fight is gonna be fight to the death. Like I would watch that fight in the car park.
Oh, mate, and it might have its 5th and 6th round in there, mate. You know what I mean? So that's one you got to be careful with. That is, if that goes past the first 30 seconds, which I imagine nothing crazy happens in that first 30 seconds, that's going 3 rounds, and that is going to be blood and guts all over the room. Do not bring your mate who's just dipping a toe into MMA cage side to this, because if they're not down, they're definitely not going to be down.
Yeah, that's not a bring the kids to sit ringside fight, is it?
Nah. Keep them home. Send that home with a $20 Keno voucher. She can go take care of that. This one's for the hardcores.
You know what I'm loving as well, and you can tell by a lot of obviously some of the Hex title fights are a lot of veterans getting their opportunities, which is great. And of course you got Eternal MMA with some fun fights with Wes Kappa and Brentin Mumford. But are we not seeing, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, it's an amazing thing for the Australians in the world scheme of MMA, but how much has our Aussies being good hurt the regional level in the sense of we now have guys that are 3-0 fighting for titles because all of our upper level guys are now good enough to be on the next level.
Yeah, you couldn't have spoken about it better. And one of the ones you surprised me with then in the rundown sort of leads into this line of conversation. There's guys getting their chances now. Like George Mangos is the greatest. Like if you want to talk about undeniable, that's about as undeniable as you can get for your shot. And I'm You couldn't be more supportive of those guys. 7-0, burn through the division. I'm stoked that, always stoked that those guys get the shot. But there's a bit of a tier of, how would you describe it? Your second chance Cinderella stories that's coming through again. Couple of names such as Kid Campbell, names like David Martinez. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are now pushing for their shot. Kid Campbell's had his ups and downs. David Martinez had his ups and downs. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that, he gets another win on the weekend. Maybe Kieran Joblin is going to join that same thing. Absolutely a little longer in the tooth than I'd imagine Uncle Dana likes to look at. But I love that there's now this opportunity for these guys. Again, I was one of those guys that had to go through the ups and downs to finally get the shot. I really hope that the avenue for those guys is still there. And you mentioned then that the road to Hex for Kit Campbell might have been on the cards. Oh, that's the first I've heard of that.
The road to UFC. Yeah,
road to UFC. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm hearing that heavily rumored from a lot of people that he is on for that. I do believe it's like one of those featured bouts, like where they just bring them on and kind of see. It's almost like a Dana White Contender Series from Temu. Like, you get this opportunity to, but not a lot of people kind of do get that. Like, I don't think I've seen a feature bout where someone goes, "You're so amazing. Here's a contract." But it's definitely possible. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, he's getting a spotlight, and he's the sort of fighter that's all he really needs. You haven't seen too many boring, Kid Campbell fights, so he just needs a little bit of a spotlight to be on him to make his impression.
Here's one I love too, and you have had some. You've shared some moments with this man as well, but Jack Becker, how good is it to see Jack Becker finally get, he's scratched and clawed his way. And this is what I like about it. It's not like he just got signed and he's straight in the UFC. This is and I hope I do this justice when I say this. This is the lowest chance you get in the UFC. Like, road to UFC, I feel, maybe they're changing it, but road to UFC, I feel like is there. And then when they're a little bit high on you, you get contenders. When they're really high on you, you get signed straight out. But I feel like road to UFC is them throwing you a bone. And that's why I think that fits the Jack Becker story insane. Because if he can take this opportunity after the devastating injury, force his way in, I think they're in the tournament. So win the tournament, force his way into the UFC, ends up getting ranked, whatever it is. I mean, how beautiful would that story be for Jack Becker?
It's awesome. And again, this is the difference. Again, I'm not a massive straight boxing fan, but this is the difference I find. Like you said, Becker's had to go through the ups and downs. I screamed it in the middle of the cage. God, it feels like 100 years ago now. That man was at UFC level, or the international level.
He was the George Mangos.
A long time, absolutely, a long time ago. Like, he was there. And you know what I mean? Yeah, he's taken a different path to a lot of these young guys. He's had to have his ups and downs, but tell you what, it's made him. He's better for it. He is a dangerous, dangerous man. And again, imagine that. Like you just said, how much of a Cinderella story is that? You'd want to give Guy Ritchie a call just to do the biopic on Jack Becker, and I'd be in there watching it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, you were a speed bump for him, so that's kind of rude of you. Just
I wasn't. I guarantee you, he wasn't the one in his kitchen at 3 a.m. eating ice cream with the worst concussion he's ever had, mate. Bloody mongrel.
Well, I mean, how crazy is this sport? I feel like, and I'm going to probably keep going on about Jack Becker, but I feel like it's such a good insight because, like we said, you got a George Mangos on one side who everything goes perfect for, and he's done the work, but everything goes perfect for. This is the career you dream of when you're 17. You go, yeah, I'll get into MMA. I'll win 11 straight fights, including amateurs or whatever, and just murk everyone and then get signed. And then you've got the Jack Becker, which is you're so close. Then things go wrong. Then things go worse. Then you climb back and then you don't get your opportunity. And then, we've seen the UFC. Look how poorly they treated Ben Johnson, which I think should be a war crime to not give him his opportunity after everything he did. And you think, oh, man, Jack Becker's probably on that same path where the UFC won't gamble on him because he's 32, probably 33 this year. And they bloody roll the dice.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Yeah, I've got no idea of how the external factors work. It's a little bit of a complex situation, the mind frame of the UFC drafting policy. You know, they like him young, and they like him, like you said. Like we're going to constantly use George as the cookie cutter mold. Like that's if I'm drafted for the higher echelons, mate, you couldn't ask for anything more. But you do want that variety, and I'd imagine it's got something to do. Obviously, his teammate now is going to be fighting for the world title. They know he's getting the rub down there at Scrappy off with Jack. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that's got to look into him as well. You know what I mean? Showing, okay, well, he's working at an elite level in training every day. He's obviously got to be to that capacity. Let's get him in. Let's get a look at him. And like you and I know the level that he works at, so we know there's not going to be any disappointment in what he brings to the cage.
And you know what I like as well, and this is another. This is just full of stories, and you know I love more than anything, more than even the fights, is often the story behind it. Don Marfan, right? A bit of kind of gets his opportunity quicker than we probably all would have thought. But his only 2 losses come against Quillan Salkilld. Do you reckon because of how good Quillan did in the UFC, they're like, well, that age as well?
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, maybe this kid just ran into a big lanky lad who's just putting kids out in the first 15 seconds in the UFC. Maybe we'll give him another look. Yeah, mate. Again, he'll get a bump up too. You know, knowing get a little bit of confidence off the success of Quinlan, he'll now get a bump when he steps in.
You know who I feel for the most out of all of this?
Is this
Harry Webb?
Yeah, he's sort of lost in the X of it. But he's, and I'm again huge Harry Webb fan. Love what he does, and they get undefeated. But you know, if his body's all good now, make your own fate. Again, this sport you can have nothing but bad luck. If you invite it and left it, bad luck's going to come and bite you anyway. So he's whatever he can control, whatever factors he can control, bang, go and get it done. And get it done. And I'm sure he will.
I feel like this is going to, impending he's all healthy. And I'm hearing good news. I'm hearing that he might even be looking at June, July. I could be speaking out of my ass here. And then the UFC, I don't even know if it's him or the UFC, but I'm pretty sure they want one fight regionally. And then he's basically ready to step up to the UFC. Because he's signed, look, and you would know this as well, but both him and George Mangos were announced that they were signed with Chosen Advisory with Dan Maudsley and Tim Simpson. And when you sign with Chosen Advisory and you're regional, it's normally like a guaranteed, like you must be in the UFC. Do you know what I mean? So I do feel that we are going to see Harry Webb. But if you're in that situation where you just had a fight of the year against Kevin Cophamel, you're as hyped as anything. Would you take one more regionally, or would you recover? And if say they gave you the opportunity to then just jump straight into the UFC, as a man that has been there, what would you do?
Well, it's a 2-pronged question. If you're asking what I would do, I'd do the dumb thing. Because as I out at the very start of this podcast, I'm not a smart man. I like to fight. I really like to fight. But again, that's not an ego thing. Again, I would have made dumb decisions my whole way through. You've got to make a smart decision. That's where, his coach, he's got to sit there with John and they've got to let him make this decision. I'm going no doubt he's a game guy and he was like, I'll fight anyone. That's him being a competitive fighter. His coaching staff, they're the ones that've got to now pick those routes. So
you reckon sit?
He's got to talk to the powers of be, or his representatives have to talk to the powers and be, and then they pick that path. It is far more of a business now than you think. I never got that part of the game. I was lucky to have people around me that did know a little bit of part of that game better than me. If the UFC is saying, listen, we need to see this, then maybe you do that. If they're saying, listen, no, it's a long layoff as well. That's so just strategically thinking you wouldn't want to now after it's a long layoff, have your next bout be that international breakthrough fight. Because, you know what I mean? Ring rust is, whether you call it a thing or not, it is. You know what I mean? If he's been out, you'd like to see him get, maybe that one regional wouldn't be a bad idea just to get him back in the cage again before he has that international breakthrough.
Would you, and I know that not many fights in MMA are, but would you, if you were in charge of his career, would you almost give him a quote-unquote tune-up fight?
Not a lot of them, especially his level. You know what I mean? And when I say it's not a lot of them, absolutely he can get some kid from the boondock somewhere who's 1-4, but then it looks like you're fighting a 1-4. And that and the sad thing is MMA, I've seen stupid things happen in all things, but So even a tune-up fight for him is still going to be one of the elite level guys in Australian MMA. You know what I mean? Like, as much as he should win these fights if he's the fighter that he is, but it's always going to be a hard thing and bad things can happen. It's such, this tune-up fights in MMA, even local MMA, is such a hard thing to fathom because bad things can happen no matter what. You and I have seen it.
Now, if you had the magical golden ticket and you could get one of them signed, story, personal preference, doesn't matter what it is, out of your George Mangos, your Kit Campbell, your Seb Saleh, your Don Marfan, your Harry Webb, all those guys, who do you hope or who do you want to see get that UFC signed in the UFC? Who do you want to see?
Okay, I'm taking George out of it because George is signed, mate.
Yeah.
Like you could cover that guy in human feces and the UFC would still want to hug him, mate. Like that bloke. I'd say I'm not even sure if he can do carpentry, but I'd have him build me a deck, mate. That guy could probably do anything. So he's sorted. So I take him out of it. And again, this is nothing but personal preference. I've had experiences with the man, just talking about story, and I love everything he's gone about. It is, for me, it is Kit Campbell. You know what I mean? That bloke has never not taken a fight. You look through his record, never not taken a fight and beat some of the best. And talk about a story. That's great. He's now mixing up with, he's got a great crew around him. To have him come through, and again, he's not going to go in there and have 20 fights. You know what I mean? He's getting to that turn again. But to him to get in there and display his skills, land that big left high kick on a UFC stage, would just, that'll bring a tear to my eye.
I mean, and we talked about Jack Becker being sort of the George Mangos back in the day. Kit Campbell was the George Mangos back in the day. Wasn't he like 19 and 4-0 fighting on Hex?
Yeah. And then he ran into Matt Vale back in the day. He got that one back eventually, but he was on that tear, got the title, beat Barcade for the title, and then the next one he had Matt Vale come off and put a stint, but then went through his up and down, went up in weight, down in weight, fought all the tough dudes. You know what I mean? I've been in his corner a couple of times. He's always been. He's one of those guys you corner, and as much as some choices sometimes irritate you, his heart was never an issue. That guy was always going to get in there and give you a fight.
Now, regionally, I wanted to ask you about sort of any fight that was been announced the last 2-3 weeks. Like, what's the one that excites you the most? Bar you're like in terms of stepping up. Not necessarily a fun. Like, I know you want to see the Wes Kappa, Brentin, Mumford, that sort of style. But what do you think is the most important regional fight?
There's just been so much. You know what I mean? Like I said, the two fun ones we've mentioned straight off the bat. You know what I mean? And again, there's certainly no disrespect to the guys. They're all gun fighters, but don't have direct impact on international scene, even local title scene, too much. Again, both winners of those fights are going to get a look into the title scene. It's hard. It could be the Joblin Trepka. You know what I mean? Again, because Joblin, again, has burst back in. He got a really good win over Lockjaw to win that title again. He's now that chance of been pushing himself towards that fairy tale story again. Again, that's me being a little biased. I've always been a Joblin fan. There's been so many going on. What you did mention as well, there's something that caught me off guard. Did you mention an interim middleweight title for the Eternal?
I don't believe that was announced as interim middleweight. But
okay, all right.
I would bet my left nut that Darcy Vendy is signed for Contenders. I know nothing.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question.
Do you know much about Sebastian Temesi?
I do know a little bit about Seb, judo guy, judo-based guy. Did a lot of training. Obviously, anyone that's done 2 hours of judo somehow finds their way down to Resilience Training Center. So he came down and did a bit of training. Big, strong, physical guy. Sometimes gets that judo aspect of, I get into an MMA fight and I don't know judo anymore. I just want to punch people in the head. I don't know what's wrong with these judokas. As soon as they get in there, all they really want to do is just kickboxing. Very tough, super tough. It's a hard fight for him though. JDM, and I'm sure JRM is looking to come back. He's not happy. I'm sure not happy with the last fight. So I think he's going to be in there with a fire under his backside.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. I feel like last year, and I could be wrong, but I feel like last year when we were talking, the scene kind of had almost like more stability. It feels almost very, I don't want to say fragile in a bad way, but just there's guys getting, like I said, Don Marfan was probably the third or fourth on my list that I thought was going to get picked up. You know what I mean? It's just like random guys left, right, and center. I mean, all very like, no one sort of more violent, more scary. But the fact that we've got an interim bantamweight title between Connor Birch and Matty Ian, and it's like, tell me how much we talked about them even in September of last year. And I think it's a great opportunity for the young guys as well, because exactly, Matty Ian, I've had an eye on for a little while out of Australian top team. But like you said, it's like there's an opportunity for someone to step up. Like when a starter in a basketball team gets injured and the bench player finally gets his opportunity. Does it kind of feel like that's about to happen?
Yeah, there's chaos. There's just more chaos at the moment. Like you said, the word structure was perfect, because last 18 months there's been a bit of structure. It doesn't mean everything's played out the way I think, but there's just been a bit of a line into the titles. These guys are now moving towards the international, and it played out sort of as you're expecting. There's a lot more chaos now. I said some of the older heads are getting back in the mix. There's young guys now coming up. What I would say to the young crews out there, you guys that are starting your pro careers, you are 1-0, you are 2-0 at the moment. This is the time to knuckle down, because you can really make it a run for yourself as one of those guys in your division. You know what I mean? If you now go from, in the next 12 months, if you go from 2-0 to 5-0, you can be the guy in that division. It's a real open run at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like too, and I explained it to someone the other day about Dana White Contender Series. I think last year we had 8 Anzacs. I would say, based on our performance in the UFC and in Contenders, I would say we had an opportunity to have about 12. But what was happening is we probably had like 2 or 3 years of build-up, where now it's like we don't have a whole lot of those middle guys ready to step up and to be top guys. A lot of the people we have are, like you said, those 1 and 2 youngsters that now all of a sudden have to try and skip the middle bit.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on.
When I think it was Harry Webb was getting the lightweight title opportunity at 4-0, I think it was, we were a bit like, whoa, that's pretty soon. Like, as good as he is, we're like, whoa, that's a bit soon. Where now, 4-0, you feel like a veteran.
Yeah, and that's got a lot to do with the amateur scene bursting off here as well. Like, Harry Webb was 4-0, but he also had, I think, close to 10 amateur fights as well. Like, the guys are getting that good experience at amateur, as they should. And then, like I said, by the time they get to pro level, they're pushing through and hitting those 1-0, 2-0, 4-0s and becoming those contenders. But it's so open now. Like I said, we're not even talking about, you know what I mean? We've sort of heard about guys on the cusp. We know them now, but we could have this discussion again in 6 months, and there will be 3 or 4 names where we're going, do you know what? This guy picks up 1 or 2 more wins. Like, there's going to be a burst of guys come through over particularly the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's like the spotlight has never been brighter, but there's not as many people on the stage. So if you've got a dance move, now's your moment.
Yeah, I love that. If you've got a secret electric boogaloo in your back pocket, the time to shine your shoes and get in the mix there.
Now, I also wanted your thoughts on a very, very sad time. You mentioned Australian MMA. Demolition wrapping up with old Wayne Carl. I mean, how important, and I would always say, and it was the highest compliment, the college basketball of mixed martial arts, because he got the draft picks ready. He got the guys ready for the NBA, and proof is in the pudding. Your John O'Micallefs, your Harry Webbs, all those guys. How sad is it to not have Wayno around anymore?
Oh, it is. It's a real, absolutely sensational for us as a gym. It was 15 minutes, always had guys on. It was a great avenue for our amateur fighters coming through. Well matched, well ran, great show. Like I said, it's very few shows you rock up, and Wayne runs it. His wife runs the backstage. His daughters are up the front taking tickets off people as they come in. Hard to describe an MMA event as a family show, but find a better way to describe. But as I've had discussions with other promoters over the last 2 or 3 months and said this more times than I can count, I've always rather be the guy taking the punches than organising them. So well done to them. Hats off to them for running the promotion as run they did. It is such a it's no different to owning a gym. I'm sure all gym owners will back me up here. It's a lot of an easier thing to look at doing than actually doing. And the fact that they ran as long as they did is a real credit to them.
Yeah, and look, there's still some great amateur shows around. Domination in Perth, of course, proving grounds in Queensland, even Winners Circle popping up in Newcastle, which boy, did I press Mr. Paul Daniels on how ready he was, and I was very elated to have such a sort of successful show, and they're already ready for their second show in July. It just to go back to it, it feels like a very weird time in Australian MMA, and it's like, where do you see it in 5-6 months?
Yeah, it's definitely a rebirthing phase. All right, we've just gone past Infinity Wars and Endgame, and now we are now entering phase 5.
Oh no, that's not good.
Okay, well, look, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great start for Marvel.
We got She-Hulk. She-Hulk's coming.
Yeah, we don't no fucking She-Hulk. Let me tell you, no She-Hulks here. So we're rebirthing. There's a whole new multiverse happening, but I don't mind that. You know what I mean? As long as it's going in that right direction. And there's going to be different names as far as promotions, different names as far as fighters, coaches, gyms, and all that. As long as we're all pointing towards that right direction, the right guys are getting their opportunities. People are trying to fight. People are trying to find out who's the best. Again, I'm absolutely looking through it with rose-colored glasses and great hope and adulation, and without blowing too much smoke in your direction as well, mate, and a few of your cohorts as well. But the media side behind the local scene now is great too. And that is so important, because what makes our guys, and when I say our guys, the local fighters, gives them the opportunity is we need to know their stories. I just don't need to know that Billy Bob from the back of Newcastle is 4-0. I need to know Billy Bob likes jiu-jitsu, started jiu-jitsu because he had to tackle an alligator one day to save his family. I need to know this, and you guys are doing a great job providing the stories behind the athletes as well.
Do not handball, sir. You two are on the field. You have done just as much media as anyone. Why have we not seen any ramblings?
Again, I'm glad you brought it up. I try as much as again. It was taking up a lot of time, and again, for the exact reason I just said, I started that solely to make sure that a lot of these guys were getting their stories, and that they don't. But it's so good that yourself and a few of your cohorts, and now that's all covered. I'm very comfortable that side is now being covered. You don't need my fad in there. I like to jump in here and chat to you every now and then to nerd out. But so long as the new athletes coming through have got a platform to get their stories out, that's all I ever hope for, mate.
Well, it's it's a very interesting time. I tell you that, and the stories feel very. I like to think that if I want to talk to them, I assume everyone else wants to hear from them. Like, that's always my theory with it all. Is there any sort of stories this year that have popped up? Like, I wanted your thoughts on a guy that has been to the top. You've been to the UFC, and that's great, right? But there comes a time when you are no longer at the top. How did you handle it? Because, of course, the shocking news that Josh Culibao got dropped. What was your sort of, I don't know, I'm assuming you didn't reach out, but what would your advice be to Mr. Culibao after getting cut from the UFC?
Yeah, look, I was really disappointed and a little bit shocked. You know what I mean? As much as, it was 3 in a row, it was super close fights, but yeah, I was really shocked. He who's not a Josh Culibao fan locally and in the UFC, he's done a great job. What I would say, if I was going to give him advice, he just needs to sit down with the people he cares about, whose opinions he cares about, and make his decision. And it's a real black and white thing. I am continuing to fight, which means he's continuing to push back to that. So whatever he needs to do, talk to the brass. This is what I need to do to move to that. Or, do you know what? I've now accomplished what I want to accomplish, and this is a subject that's been going on in around lots of people that I know as well. I am now ready to make that move into the next phase of my life, and he can work towards that. But he just needs to make it real black and white. You don't want to sit in that limbo of, am I fighting, am I not fighting? Because he needs to whatever, because he's only a young man, you know what I mean? I'm sure if he wants to go and have a family and all that, that's his opportunity to that. Hey, but if he wants to get back and keep fighting and get back in that UFC, that is absolutely an option for him as well. And he has got the skill level and the ability to do so.
Was it hard for you to make that decision?
Yeah, it was a very sad evening, mate. Because I'm not going to put it out there. I was actually offered one more fight with the UFC. I was actually offered a fight in Vegas against Brian Barberina.
Oh, glad you said no.
Yeah, that would have been a fun one. Brian likes to punch people in the head. My head doesn't move too much, so I'm sure he would have got about it. Look, it would have been a lot of fun, mate. But I've always been one that said I'd rather have one too less than one too many. So and I wake up every day and realise I'm, as far as transitional life to where I've ended up at fight, I'm the luckiest bloke on earth. You know what I mean? I'm in my caravan nine out of 10 weekends. I've got a job that I love. You know what I mean? I'm never afraid to wake up to, and a wife that's okay.
Any you're gonna get
I'm in trouble, yeah.
that third or fourth fight as soon as you finish here. When it comes to sort of guys that you're coaching, you know, I guess everyone is always likes to keep up to date with what the Rockstar is doing. Are you still coaching aspiring fighters?
Yeah, we've got a couple coming up. Ascension's got a show coming up. One of our girls on there, Mrs. Kazgulu. She's getting in. She's going to look to move to 3-0 as an amateur. She's an absolute beast. I've never, you know, as a coach, sometimes it's a balance with people that you need to either push them forward or pull them back. This girl has far too much bloodlust. I'm trying to get her just to taper that a little bit and get a little bit more strategic, but she enjoys punching people far too much. So, no, that's a really good one. And then the same weekend over in Auckland, Stealth Fight Series, our man Owen Coughlin's venturing over there to take on the very talented, I believe it's Fergus Jenkins. I'm stuffed that up. He's a very talented young kid, very capable grappler as well. A couple of very high-level grapplers. Owen thinks he's a K1 kickboxer now, but I'd like to remind him.
Who did Owen beat?
Oh, man, him is... Oh, you're going to stuff...
Was it Lonnie?
He's just got rematched again. You're going to stuff me up. I can't remember.
Lonnie Fimalalu?
Lonnie, that's it.
Yeah, because I remember he was Owen was definitely not the favorite by, you know, the bookies going in, and he just completely like has always been talented, but I feel like Owen always gets he's always like the underdog from the wider public, and no one knows just how sort of good he is, but he will fight absolutely anyone. And he did, and he showed everyone why he's so good. I'd still take Sarah Collins over him in a fight at home, but
oh mate, tell you what, he's easier to coach. Bloody Sarah. No, look, and what we were talking about before with that, look, both the boys, I think Fergus is maybe 2-0.
Yeah.
So both boys 1-0, 2-0. They get a couple of wins in the next 12 months. They put themselves. That's going to be a ripper fight.
And I would be remiss if I didn't plug my young teammate who I once taught how to arm drag when he was 15, Aiden Todoroff, who is going for the Ascension lightweight title.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah,
I'll give him a big high five. You coming down for that one? Or
I am actually going to try and make it over. So, yeah.
Oh, good man.
I know. Now, mate, as we sort of let this wrap up, because me and you could talk about this for days, is there just anything you're looking forward to in the next couple of months? Any particular fight show? Any particular, I mean, we've mentioned already a couple of fights, but anything particular that stands out for you?
Look, like we've mentioned a couple of fights that you've already seen. I am very much looking forward to the next beatdown. That's in July.
Yep.
I'm going to give. Actually, if you're listening to Damien, I'm going to give you a reach out because I said that I'm really keen to get one of our boys on there. I want to get up and check that show. That show, he does such a good job. And as I've mentioned too many times, if you sit down and talk to that man about business and money, he's far too intelligent. You've been punched in the head too many times. You should not be this intelligent about things. It's very confronting. So I'm a dumb man, and I don't enjoy other fighters being intelligent. It makes me feel very self-conscious. So if he can just sort that out, Damien Brown. But I'm keen to get up there and check that show out. I'll try to get one of my boys on that so I can do so.
Yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to the Logan City card. I always like Eternal going to new cities. I mean, I know Logan City is like 5 minutes down the road from Brisbane. It's all the same, but still, I always like seeing a bit of massive growth. And there's far too many talented fighters, and like honestly, I think if we do this chat in December, we're gonna look back and go, holy shit, we didn't see any of this coming.
Yeah. Wouldn't even know about so-and-so because they've just burst onto the scene.
Oh, without a doubt. All right, Mr. Potter, can we see any ramblings, though, coming in the future, or are they officially?
I'll put a few little things out, but, mate, I'm so happy to pass the torch on to your good self, mate. I don't even have the torch. Just let go of my little pinky off the torch that you are running with so greatly, mate, and you're doing a great job, and I get excited every time I see something come up.
Well, if I'm not careful, I'm going to drop it and accidentally burn it all down. So I'm going to be very... All right, man. I appreciate it. Till next time.
Thanks very much, brother. See you soon.
Thank you.